Good evening, everyone. We're coming at you after the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. I'm Zach, that's Jack, and this is the Gridiron Review podcast with our end of day one coverage. We're going to start right away, talking about the eventful day, all the trades that happened after the top 10, and curious decisions, steals, reaches, all that stuff. This isn't going to be going pick by pick, because some picks just make more sense than others, like Hutchinson to the Lions. I think most people had that. We're going to start with the Jags, who went Trayvon Walker first. I don't love the pick. I don't hate the pick. It depends on how they decide to use him. I guess Chason is just going to, relegate back to a rotational rusher. They kept talking about in the pre-draft and after the pick, like, oh, Georgia mislined him, and if you put him on the outside of the tackle, he's going to succeed. Well, he didn't. You don't know that. I mean, anytime you're banking on someone to do something they've never done, it's a risk. But then, an even more curious move, they traded back into the first and took a Devin Lloyd. It's a decision. Lloyd seems to have great character. He had one of the better post-draft reactions, yelling Duval into the crowd, and he certainly has the upside, as Jack has noted many times. He's got a lot of development, and they're one of their inside linebacker positions at the moment was Shaquille Quartermain, so it's not like it wasn't a need, but they passed on offensive line, and it's going to be interesting to see how their day two goes. Jack, you want to discuss the Jags real quick?
Jacksonville, what are you doing? What is the point of drafting Trevor Lawrence if your primary concern isn't Trevor Lawrence? And people are probably going to sit here and wonder what the heck I'm talking about. Well, they just paid Christian Kirk $18 million a year, so you're wasting teams' money. You just paid wide receiver for Zay Jones $8 million a year, more waste of team money. You refuse to take an offensive line at one, which is whatever. If you really wanted Walker, whatever. But then you trade back in, and you still don't take offensive line.
And this is going to be a common theme for a few teams that had a glaring need, and instead they just went elsewhere. But keep going.
Like the Jaguars, I get you just signed Robinson to an extension. You signed Scherf. There's money there, but you're still missing two spots on the line. Linderbaum was taken at 25. What are you doing? The only thing that makes me think is like Jacksonville wants to mimic a Ravens defense where you just throw a bunch of versatile guys like on the line and have everyone look like they're going to rush and just drop whoever the heck you want. Like, I don't know what your game plan is here. You better hope that Walker and Lloyd can tackle Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're both guys that need a lot of development. They're high risk, high reward, both of the picks. Neither one of them is safe. And it's even weirder that you bring in offensive-minded coach Doug Peterson and you don't take an offensive piece in the first round. And not to say that the Jags defense didn't need work, but there's a lot of edge rushers still left that provide a lot of value. And there's not as many offensive linemen. We'll get to one of our Jack's high value sleepers that got taken in the first round by the Patriots. So the Lions took the obvious pick of Hutchinson at 2, the local kid. I mean, I think everyone saw that coming if Walker got picked 1. And then they made an even more interesting decision to trade all the way up from 32 to 12 12,
32 to 12 with the division rival.
Yeah, they jumped 20 spots for what they were thinking was a quarterback at the time, and they went with Jameson Williams. It's an interesting move, but the Lions barely gave up anything to do it. So this is a genius trade. I mean, why not? Looking at who was there at 32, you could have still had Sky Moore, you could have had Christian Watson, but basically they gave up pick 32 and a third and a pick swap in the second. Yeah, do that. Like, what? 10 out of 10 times I would make that trade. And the only concern I have is, I don't know if Jameson Williams just is not an interview guy, but he did not look thrilled. And I doubt the Lions would have taken someone that they thought didn't want to play there. I don't think they would have traded all the way up.
Who wouldn't want to play for Dan Campbell, though?
Maybe it's that he's catching passes from Jared Goff. I don't know.
I would believe that.
But as far as the Lions front office goes, that was a great move. Even I didn't have Williams as a top. I mean, I had him as a good receiver. I had him compared to Terry McLaurin, and you gave up, like I said,
Peanuts. Absolute
peanuts,
peanuts.
which is a common trend among all these trades. There was no, at least in my eyes, trades that seemed fair. I thought the teams that moved up gave up nothing to do it. Like, it's crazy that, you see, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think I forget who jumped up. The Bills jumped up 2 picks and gave up a fourth for it. And
Yeah.
that seems like a lot based on some of the other trades that were made. But then the Texans really started this draft off with Derek Stingley. There was rumors, Jack even sent it to me, that popped up right up to
30
the
minutes
draft
before the draft.
that they were leaning Stingley, and they did it. It is high risk, high reward. Lovie Smith is a gambling man, and Stingley has all the potential in the world. For me, now granted, I didn't scout the corners. I think Sauce would have been a little bit safer, but who cares? You don't make money being safe. If you're Lovie Smith, who doesn't know how many years, if he hits on this pick, if this pick works, maybe he buys himself more time even. So I don't have a problem with this. I think it was exciting. It set the tone, I think.
Yeah, to Zach's point, Sauce was our cornerback 1 because he is the safe pick. With Stingley, this is a gamble. You are taking a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy since his freshman year, but what he did his freshman year and making all whatever his accolades were, I'm sure he won everything in the book that year. If you can get him to return to form and not be injured, I would take Stingley over Sauce 10 out of 10 times in this draft. And I'd argue that Stingley is the first overall pick. And I've said it time and time again. And Lovie Smith, that hiring, even by us, got judged. It probably wasn't the smartest move, but Lovie Smith is the guy that wanted Stingley. So he was able to convince Caserio, like, this is my guy. Let me go get him. If it doesn't work out, his tenure is probably going to last a year, just like everyone else in Houston over the last couple of years. But if it works out, like Zach said, it buys him time. This is like, it excites me, this pick.
Yeah, for sure. And, they still have a lot of picks to go. And who was their second pick?
Kenyon Green.
So Kenyon Green, great pick. I think we had that a few times in the mock, and he even, in our eyes, I think fell a little bit to them. There was some thoughts for us that the Jets may have gone with him at 10. The Jets went other directions, but a great first round by the Texans for a team that desperately needs to just get better.
Yeah, for me, Green was a top 10 prospect, and I think that what dropped him a little bit was his combine. I heard some rumors floating a couple days ago that he was going to fall into the second due to a knee injury, yet when you Google it, nothing pops up. So it is what it is, but I think, it's genius. You move down with the Eagles 2 spots, you pick up a 4th and 2 5th-round picks in a very deep class at certain positions, and the Texans need everything. So those are probably going to end up being starting players, or at least guys competing for starting spots. And you walk away with, when healthy, the best corner and a top 10 lineman. How can you not say they didn't win, weren't one of the winners of the first round?
Agreed. Another winner, I would argue, is the Jets, who ended up with 3 first-rounders after all was said and done. They bypassed their choice of the offensive lineman and went with Sauce Gardner. A risky move, in my opinion. Not Sauce. I think Sauce is great. And I thought his after he was drafted, when he was saying you always need more sauce, I thought that was great. I really thought that was awesome. But it ended up being that they didn't take an offensive lineman in the first round. They took 3 positions of need. And especially the 3rd pick with Jermaine Johnson, which is A+, super steal, love it. So they have to go offensive lineman now. I think they've addressed everything else, and they still have some needs, but it's 3 needs, and I don't, unless the Mekhi Becton stuff is overblown and they're not as upset with him as as you thought. Sauce Gardner, great pick, great corner. They need it very badly. And now he's going to match up on Stephon Diggs and probably Tyreek Hill. Otherwise, it would have been Bryce Hall or DJ Reed. So,
yeah, just kind of building off that is, I said it in my review of the pick on our TikTok, is the Jets lack an alpha in their secondary, period. Corner or safety alike, they're missing an alpha. And Sauce is going to step in and be the guy. And people are saying that he can't match up with top competition because he played at Cincinnati. Watch the Alabama tape. I don't remember either of those guys doing much on him. He didn't give up more than 13 yards to a single receiver this season. He hasn't given up a touchdown in his career. I mean, Diggs and Hill are a completely different level. So boy better come to play.
And he just screams. His personality screams New York. Like,
oh,
he just
yeah.
seems. And then, so the Jets also at 10 took Garrett Wilson, very popular pick that was thought to be as high as 4 by some idiots. But listen, I don't love the pick because I think I had other receivers better. However, the Jets, instead of picking O lineman, went a different way to make life easier for Wilson by getting a guy to pair with Elijah Moore, who both can take slants to the house. So in a way, I guess it does help him out. And you can allow him to make quicker reads, get the ball out quicker instead of holding it and getting murdered. So, it's a decent pick for me. It's not an amazing pick. But then they traded back in for Jermaine Johnson, which is one of the steals of the draft for me. So I think overall they're a big winner today.
So Jermaine Johnson is kind of what saved it. Like Zach, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Garrett Wilson pick. I think that you could have traded down or taken a receiver later on. I just think that you go out and sign both Uzoma and Conklin to at $7 and $8 million contracts a year, respectfully. I mean, unless you're running 3 receiver, 2 tight end sets, I don't know what the plan is here. I don't know who you're setting because Elijah Moore had a good rookie season and Davis got paid. So if you're gonna run 12 personnel, who's going where?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that maybe they're gonna try and get out of the Corey Davis contract after this year. That was the only thing that came to mind. Is like, well, maybe they'll just play with this 3 and get rid of him. I assume after most of the guaranteed money's out of the way. Mm-hmm. So that brings us to the Giants.
You idiots.
They took Kayvon Thibodeau. I understand he's got a lot of upside. He's a good run defender now. Maybe his personality is built for New York, but how many times of him saying he's the best and then doesn't start off hot and the New York crowd turns on him? What's going to happen then? I don't like this pick. They should have, even if you flip it and take the lineman here and then take Thibodeau at 7, I think it's a better grade. I just think they were really playing a dangerous game. I don't know why you take Thibodeau here. The Panthers weren't going to take him, and you wouldn't have thought they were going to trade out with the lineman there. So it's just very curious. I think it wasn't a super need. I don't know. I think the analysts overblow the need of edge for the Giants. If you get Jadeveon Clowney, are you happy with that? The real Jadeveon Clowney, the guy that doesn't really get double-digit sacks, but's a good run defender. Are you happy with that at this pick? And to me, I wouldn't be. They really saved it by getting lucky with their second pick here, but I just not a fan of the Thibodeau pick. I thought he was a mid to late first-round prospect. I know we're in the minority there, but I just wonder if I'm the best attitude. If it sours in New York, if he keeps saying this and he doesn't start off super hot and the Giants turn on the fan base, which is very quick to react. I'm just curious what's going to happen there. But then again, maybe Martindale unlocks him. I mean, if there is a coach that you want taking a chance on an edge guy, it's Martindale. So he's got a good track record of getting a hold of edges and unlocking them. But usually it's later round guys or mid to late round guys. So this is a first for us. I mean, he really didn't have too much time with Jason Oweh. So the last time I think that he took a first rounder, if he was even there, was Sizzle. I don't even know if he was in the
I don't
building.
think he was there.
Yeah, so this is a first for Martindale, to our knowledge, and who knows? I really think there was bigger needs on the board, and I don't know.
The Jaguars, the Jets, the Texans, the Panthers, whether they were going to do it or not, every one of those teams have a quarterback to protect. New York taking Thibodeau when the board fell perfectly, you had your choice of the top 3 linemen, and you almost blew it.
Yeah, this is like, we understand that they were guaranteed one of the other linemen, but why did you even we just don't understand. I don't understand the thought process of let's go Thibodeau first. The Panthers were not taking him, and I personally didn't see a scenario where a team traded up with enough ammo to cause the Carolina to move out of the way of one of the elite tackles. So it's just a really weird. The only thing I can think of is that they were thinking Sauce the whole way, and then he got taken, so they shuffled, they panicked and just submitted the next guy instead of thinking about it. I think that happened one other time, or maybe 2 other times. I think Washington ended up in that similar situation where their 2 guys went and they just didn't know what to do. That's my opinion. I know you're supposed to plan for that, but I really thought between any of these teams in the beginning that there was going to be tackles taken, one of them. And the Jets, the Giants, the Jags are going to have to live with this decision. I'm not saying it was the right or the wrong decision. I mean, I know the Giants took Neal, but the Jets and the Jags and the Texans are going to have to live with the decision that they didn't take a tackle. And in the Jets and the Jags specifically, you're going to see if that's going to matter. And again, what are we, I think both teams picked good players. Like I said, I didn't love the Walker pick, and the Devin Lloyd fit is a little weird, but you can't argue that they're high upside players.
I don't know why you're not taking your pick. I feel like this whole is about taking your guy or being able to get your pick of your guys, and all 3 linemen fell to you. I'll skip ahead a little bit to Carolina. Why are you taking Ike Ekwonu? Both franchise left tackles fell into your lap. There's situations where you weren't supposed to see either Neal or Cross, and both of them sat in your lap, and you took Ekwonu. And I get that there's people who think that he can be a franchise tackle, but I personally think that he's going to be shifted into guard and have a better career there. And now, yeah, Sam Darnold is protected on the inside, but he's going to get burned by guys like Cam Jordan, Shaq Barrett, Joe Tryon, who are going to abuse whoever. Well, I guess Ekwonu is their left tackle as of the moment, but why are you not taking Neal, who is the most ready guy? Why are you not taking Cross, who's the best pass blocker? And the Giants, by taking Thibodeau at 5, what happened to? We feel bad for what we did to Daniel Jones. How about doing all this to make sure Daniel Jones succeeds? Thibodeau does not help Daniel Jones succeed. There's no even saying that he succeeds. And to Zach's point, the New York media and the fans are going to eat this man alive, especially with the way that he interviews.
Yeah, he needs to produce right away, or else this is going to be a problem. And when you look at how the draft board played out, obviously you can't predict the rest of the picks, but they could have taken Neal at 5, traded out of 7, and taken Jermaine Johnson,
which we had at one point too.
Yeah, which resulted in more picks. And is Thibodeau that much better than Jermaine Johnson that you couldn't even trade it back a couple picks and picked up an extra day 2 pick or something?
Jermaine Johnson was the best run blocker. What did Thibodeau have? Upside? I'd rather take the run blocker over the upside.
Thibodeau's not a bad run blocker, but I just
defender,
think,
I mean.
Yeah. Thibodeau's not a bad run defender, but I don't know. I mean, for all this talk about them trading out because of money concerns, they didn't. And, I guess take your guys, but super risky. And it's a new regime, but man, did that feel like an old Giants first round. Like it felt like nothing was changed. And we're not going to start down in the new coaching staff already, but I don't know. We'll have to see. My comment on the Panthers, at least they took the right position. Like they could have traded out here and hoped that they still got one of the tackles or offensive linemen and still picked up some extra picks. They sat tight and they took the right pick. They didn't reach on a quarterback, as we saw. I mean, look, I thought the quarterbacks were going to fall, but this was the most extreme version that could have been.
I was gonna say this is like the craziest scenario that could have been
imagined. The fact that nobody traded into the end of the first to get the 5th-year eligible contract is just crazy to me. I don't know. I mean, are we looking at? I mean, we can talk about this more in a minute as we get later. But there's four second-round quarterbacks maybe.
But but look at the order because of all the trades: Tampa, Tennessee, and there was another team up there that hold the first 3 picks that could go quarterback, and everyone is sitting there.
Yeah,
anyone with upside is sitting there.
And we'll talk about this order again because there's a reason. Like Green Bay's strategy is going to backfire horrendously, in my opinion. But we're going to go Drake London to Atlanta at 8. I mean, that was the second big shocker. Did not see that at all. I never thought, I don't know. I just, no part of me was like, oh,
let's
Drake
play
London's
big ball.
Yeah, no part of me was like, oh, Drake London's going to be the first receiver taken. Listen, I love him. I think he's a really good route runner for his size. I think he's decently elusive after the catch, and he's a box out specialist. I just thought they would go more, not small ball, but Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, but they didn't. And, I'm still kind of not sure what to think about it. I like it. I don't hate it. It's just they're going in a different direction. Kudos to them for not just trying to replace Calvin Ridley and just doing something different. Kyle Pitts and Drake London, good luck stopping them in the red zone whenever, they get there once a game. So, and to be completely fair, we're looking at the second round and there's still Sky Moore. There's still John Mechie. There's still a lot
George
of guys.
Pickens, Christian Watson.
There's still the receivers did not go later in the first like we thought they would because teams like Green Bay punted on it. And now Atlanta, with all the quarterbacks still there, Atlanta could take another receiver and then take a quarterback. Atlanta could really win this whole draft. They could end up with a much better draft than anyone thought by how this board has fallen. Because if they take Sky Moore, then you got your slot guy that's a high target, or even John Mechie. I mean, this hearsay, but it could be very, very good for Atlanta. Do you want to add anything in there?
No, I'm just going to move to the next one.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Seattle. You finally didn't make a bozo move. Man, Charles Cross was falling for a guy whose hype train really ramped up over the last couple of weeks. And Seattle, man, when Seattle was on the board, I was like, these dudes are going to take Trevor Penning or they're going to do something stupid here. And they actually thought out their decision this time. They actually weren't smoking pot in the war room or something. Clear-minded, great choice. I like that Drew Lock is getting a chance, and you gave him a left tackle. That's their way of saying F you, Russell Wilson.
I like it. I was also thinking, man, are they going to play that I outsmart everyone else type of rule? But they didn't. And listen, good for the Seahawks. They have a couple picks in the second. They could still go quarterback. I mean, for the Seattle, you couldn't have planned this better. I think you couldn't have dreamed that. In our opinion, the tackle would have been there. That was just a no-brainer move, and yet it was. We talked about the Garrett Wilson pick already. The Saints traded up as Washington probably just said, I'm out of here after Drake London was picked, and they went with a little surprise to me. I mean, I love him. He was our wide receiver 1, but Chris Olave. I really thought this was going to be Jameson Williams, but it wasn't. It was Olave, and I know Jack had a little bit of a B+ grade due to them being copies of each other. I think they're different enough I think Michael Thomas is a little bit bigger. Chris Olave's faster. And at the very least, you've got two of the best route running duos in the league. And I don't think you can underestimate that. So, and what makes it even better for all these trades up is they gave up nothing. Like,
Peanuts.
yeah, these trades are not costing you an extra day 2 pick for the most part, or like an extra, we had a couple trades that required Green Bay trading up with giving up a first next year. And that's laughable looking at what Detroit did. I mean, it's good for the Saints for making the move. People thought it was going to be a quarterback, I think, for a second, just like with Detroit's trade, but they stayed true to their board. The Saints jumped ahead of the wide receiver run, which I think was genius. Instead of letting it happen, they just did it, and good for them. Michael Thomas and him will form a nice duo, and if Michael Thomas gets hurt, you're not SOL with a bunch of B or C listers. So that's all I want to say on that one.
Good.
As we said, Detroit, we covered this. They went up and got Jameson Williams. Great trade. Decent pick. I would be curious to see what that interview was all about. And we get Philly. Philly. They traded with Houston, again, giving up nothing, really. I think, what was it?
A fourth and 2/5.
Do that trade all day. Howie, I don't know what you do at the coaches meeting or the front office meetings in the off season to where you like butter up the other guys and make them love you. And I don't know, it reminds me of, a salesman's like, let me help me to help you. Like I can only
People
imagine.
helping people. Help me help you. But I think that this trade worked out for both teams. In terms of Philly, I love Jordan Davis. But what are you doing? Like we talked about it the other day. Fletcher Cox, if he is not an Eagle for life, Philly is going to burn to the ground. Hargrave got paid 2 offseasons ago. You drafted Milton Williams. What is your plan with Jordan Davis? Because I don't see him playing end. I don't see Cox like what?
So imagine if they played Hargrave, Cox, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams as their line. You'd never get a rushing yard on them. Like,
yeah, but you'd be in a worse sack situation than you were last year.
Maybe. I mean, Jordan Davis, if he's left 1-on-1, I think will just eat someone alive. So then you get Josh Sweat. I don't know. Maybe they'll run like a 5-2.
I just don't know why you need a 4-deep defensive tackle. And I get they like their rotation, but Hargrave is being paid to be a 3-down player. Cox is being paid to be a 3-down player. Williams did enough to prove himself as the third guy. So I get that you jump ahead of Baltimore, but like, did you even think this one through?
They're going to run a 5-2. They're going to say, you know what, screw the corner. We're not even going to worry about it. They're not going to have a chance. The trade was do it all the time. Houston gets some more picks to just stock their team. And like Jack, I love Jordan Davis. I think he's an elite run defender with a lot of pass rushing upside. And purely on the mentorship thing, there's no one I'd rather have Jordan Davis learning how to be a big man that pass rushes from than Fletcher Cox. Like that is to me as a mentor-mentee matchup made in heaven. But you're right. They have 2 other defensive tackles there that are going to have to play. And unless one of them is traded, unless Howie's on the phone saying, help me to help you further, I just wonder, because Davis is going to have to play right away. He has the ability to play right away. And I don't know. I mean, even if you wanted to argue that Fletcher Cox could play end, so what, is Milton Williams just never going to play? Like, it's just a weird, I don't know. I'm sure they'll figure it out. And this is a Philly move for sure. It's been their calling card is just.
Yeah, forget needs. Let's go stack the D line.
And I mean, to be honest, there's 3 maybe unicorns in this draft with Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, and Jelani Woods. And you just go do it. Like, you figure it out later. This is a B+ for me. And we'll see how it works out. I don't know what their exact plan is, but I love that he's in a room with Fletcher Cox to learn from. And I think this fit can give him the most potential to break out of just a run stuffing role. It's just how much work is he going to get? But Baltimore, with probably the steal of the draft, or one of the steals of the draft, with our best player getting taken at 14 and Kyle Hamilton. I'll let you take the lead in this one.
Baltimore, I don't know how they managed to do it, but every year it seems like they just have this like wild situation where everything falls right for them. I don't know if that's just Harbaugh and DeCosta knowing what they're doing, or like spying, or I don't know what's going on, but everything always seems to fall right for them. And they got 2 steals. I never thought Hamilton would touch pick 14. And then they literally, as they take the pick, they trade back into the first round 10 picks later and take Tyler Linderbaum at 25. A guy that is talked about as being an all-pro starting his rookie year. You just got 2 of the best prospects in this year's draft for basically peanuts. I'd also like to say that we did predict that Marquise Brown was going to be traded. So,
yeah, that was not the I don't know what player I thought it was going to be when they said there was a player involved. I don't know. I think Arizona choosing Hollywood over essentially like Sky Moore is a choice. I don't like it. I would not have a high grade on Arizona's decision for that. I don't know how Baltimore got a first out of Hollywood. I know his numbers look decent, but man, that guy drops touchdowns left and right. I mean, he's probably second to Evan Ingram on clutch drops. And I don't know what Baltimore's plan is. I thought they wanted to open the offense up a little bit more. I don't have a problem with them trading Hollywood, and I think they need to take 2 more receivers in this draft to you can replace Hollywood Brown with like Calvin Austin in the 3rd, or Velus Jones. And I just, is Devin Duvernay, is he expected to take on like a deep threat role? I don't know.
that would be my guess.
But there's, with losing Miles Boykin and now without Marquise Brown, you got to add another body there. But hey, you got a first for him. I
applaud you.
Yeah,
oh
props
my
to you.
gosh.
I mean that, and you went with, instead of forcing the receiver, even though I don't think it would have been a bad pick, you took Linderbaum, which amazing.
If
Baltimore,
they can get a guy like Pickens in the 2nd, though, that fits what they do absolutely perfectly.
yeah, they kind of, Pickens is, honestly, Pickens is like a blend of Boykin and Hollywood.
Yeah.
He's the blocker that Boykin is with the speed that Hollywood has. Not quite as fast, but hey, Baltimore continues to win the draft as they usually do, but they just need to fire their offensive coordinator.
They also need to figure out what they're doing with this now 3rd safety, because they have so much money invested in that room as it is.
It's Chuck Clark, and who is the 3rd one?
Marcus Williams, who they got this year.
Oh.
So, I mean, unless they're planning on playing Hamilton as like a nickel, or I mean, this is just Baltimore given different looks. That it could just be a matter of changing the look.
Too good a value to pass up. Like with the Eagles, you figure it out later. You do the A+ pick, figure it out.
Yeah.
We covered the Texans taking Kenyon Green, great pick. They needed offensive line. They still need more, but Green has all the flexibility in the world. And now we have the Commanders. They traded out because I assume, as we predicted over and over, that they wanted Drake London, and that got thrown out the window. They traded out instead of taking. I thought that Chris Olave got taken ahead of their pick, but they traded out of the Chris Olave pick, which I think is a little weird considering he went to the Ohio.
I was going to say, so the thing is Ron Rivera doesn't travel to pro days. He traveled to 2 pro days, Drake London's and Ohio State's. With Chris Olave on the board, why are you trading out for peanuts? And then you go out and take Jahan Dotson. And I'm not going to cover that because I didn't cover the receivers. But, like, dude, you know how much you're in the news for, like, the worst possible stuff right now. Your fans need a little bit of positivity. This was not it. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, if it's a choice between Olave and Dotson, I think Olave is the much better prospect. Dotson, for me, is overrated. I think his speed doesn't show up on tape. He doesn't usually beat a ton of guys vertically or create a bunch of space with his speed. what he does well. He's a good route runner. His hands are elite. I will say that can be as dependable can be about catching the ball. I just wonder about his separation ability, and he's easy to bring down after the catch. I think he's going to slot right into. He's going to be put right into the slot role. I don't see him as an outside perimeter guy, and he can be dependable. I think the fit makes sense, but I think Olave and not having that extra fourth or whatever you got, I would rather have Olave. But
I was gonna say, but don't they already have their slot guy in Curtis Samuel? Like,
I mean, Samuel's been hurt all the time, and maybe you have a different role in mind for him.
I mean,
I don't know.
but there is a lot of money invested in him.
Yeah, I don't think you can count. I wouldn't be counting on Samuel. That's like the same thing with the Colts with Paris Campbell. I think they're both in very similar situations where, in an ideal world, yeah, they're the starters, but they're hurt so much. I don't know that you could count on them. For the time being, I think Dotson is I don't know. I don't like it. I think there was other receivers still here. I would have taken. I would have had Burks over Dotson. I don't know. It's not a good grade for me. I had it at a C. It's probably even worse as I think about it. And maybe I'm just lower on Dotson than most, but they needed size, they needed speed, and I know Dotson ran a good 40, but it doesn't show, to me at least. So anyway, the Chargers took Zion Johnson. I cannot comment too much on the actual player. However, the position is right. We had them going guard in our last mock, but I forget. It wasn't Zion Johnson, right?
No, we had them taking Kenyon Green.
Yeah, so with Green gone, Johnson is a logical choice. Jack, you can talk more.
So Zion Johnson is a guy they talk about as having positional flexibility, although I only watched him at guard. But from what I saw at guard, I would not play him at tackle. They're talking about how, I mean, this is NFL Network's analyst. They're talking about how they noted pass blocking when they watched him. I thought that it's serviceable. Not elite by any stretch of the imagination. I thought that he was very clearly probably the best run blocking interior offensive lineman in this class. And to me, this pick makes me think that they want to try to run the ball a little bit more. Maybe take the pressure off Herbert and the offense. I mean, Burks is still here. They could have gone receiver like we had a couple times. Like Zach said, at the end of the day, it's about protecting the young quarterback. It's about building the line in front of him. Johnson is just going to have to develop as he goes. Hopefully, Slater and Corey Linsley can teach him some ins and outs of pass blocking. But for now, I think my thoughts are off the bat here. The Chargers are going to take a running back in late day 2, early day 3, and just try to pound it down the field a little bit more than they did last season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if their day 2 picks are running back, wide receiver in any particular order.
Mm-hmm.
If they go, again, I keep going back to Sky Moore because he's the value here. And he had something different. While I think this is more of a third round or later pick, Wan'Dale Robinson would be a good addition. And just any running back to pair with Austin Eckler, because Eckler has been great, but he cannot keep going at the usage rate he's at.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had maybe the biggest trade in this draft. All of the news about Deebo Samuel being traded kind of, at least in my mind, really shrunk down the possibility of A.J. Brown being a draft day trade. And yet here we are. The Titans traded A.J. Brown for pick 18 to the Eagles and a third, right? The third went from the Eagles as well.
Yes.
So, and then they took Treylon Burks. So for me, my initial thought was when the Bills traded for Stephon Diggs and then the Vikings took Justin Jefferson. I think you're trading away a player and replacing him with a very similar player. And you're staying cheap. And the Eagles immediately signed him to a 4-year, $100 million deal. For the Titans, I like it. While A.J. Brown shows that he's an elite talent, he has not been able to stay healthy. And I think instead of paying him, which isn't really the Titans style, you trade him and you go get a guy and hope that at the very least he can be healthier. He's a little bit bigger. He's 6'2", I think, and A.J. Brown is 6 foot something. And I like the move for Tennessee. For Philly, I don't know. I don't love it. I don't hate it because AJ Brown is the proven one between the two, but I don't know that you needed to give an extra third. If it required an extra day 2 pick, I probably would just sat tight and taken Treylon Burks personally. I don't know. And then you had to pay him all that money. Is AJ Brown worth it? Probably, but he needs to stay healthy, and he hasn't been able to do that. So the one thing I want to add, because this is the Eagles' final move of the first round, I want them to take Willis so bad now. The fact that he's still there, Willis or Sam Howell, I am begging you, Philly, add some drama, stir the pot, and go take one of the quarterbacks in the second round.
Yeah, kind of building off what Zach said, that's where I was eventually going to end up with my point is, even if it means trading up a couple picks, you have the assets. Please, for the love of God, please go try Malik Willis or Sam Howell, because first off, no one could have ever pictured the board falling quarterback wise exactly the way it did. And for me, it's like, anyone who's followed us from the time we started this is, we talk about Devonte Smith being a 1, very clearly a 1, but he's not your typical alpha 1. So now you have a 1A, 1B situation with an alpha and your non-typical 1. But now it's in the hands of Jalen Hurts. That is like me going out and buying a $50 steak, handing it to a baby and saying, here, cook yourself a meal. You paid AJ Brown $25 million a year with $57 million guaranteed to go catch passes from a dude who can't even see the open receiver. Just watch the Tampa Bay game.
Who's going to be throwing to Zach Pascal?
Money.
He's going to be throwing to Zach Pascal.
Oh, Jalen Reagor's still on the team, so he'll probably continue to look at him.
I truly expect Jalen Reagor and Andre Dillard to be gone in this draft. Maybe, I think they'll be draft day trades. I really do. I think at the least Reagor will be gone, because Howie needs to start righting these wrongs. I mean, they already converted Arcega-Whiteside to tight end, so he won't see the field as much, and you can stash him on the practice squad because he's a developmental tight end, And at this point, I mean, even if you didn't think they were worth first rounders, Malik Willis is worth a second round. Sam Howell is worth a second round. And just like when they drafted Hurts when you had Wentz, you're not saying that they're going to start right away. A second round quarterback does not start right away typically.
Yeah, but when you see that Hurts is going to keep making the same mistakes.
Right. No. I know that. That's why I would be doing it. But I'm saying, like, as far as facing the media, Hurts is a second round pick. You don't owe him anything. He had a rough, I mean, everybody's talking about how good a year. His throwing year last year was rough. So that way you have a second round pick. If it was me, I'd probably go Sam Howell. Willis has more upside, but Sam Howell, if Hurts really struggles, although you have Minshew, so it's really about preference, I guess, at this point. I would probably go Howell, although I would not be upset if it was Willis. I just want Philly to do it. I think you're going to keep searching, if Hurts doesn't work out, if he does, great. I don't know that his upside is anything more than an average quarterback, a Tyrod Taylor. And I know Taylor wasn't bad in Buffalo, but it's also not, Willis' upside is up here. And Hurts is like here, and Howe is like here, a little bit between them in my eyes. And I think if you don't do it and you let Hurts just go in and live or die by him, then you're still pushing the championship hopes down the line if you have to draft a quarterback in the first round next year. And there's no guarantee. No quarterbacks are guaranteed next year. So, I think now is the time. I think you just got to make it happen.
Devonte Smith, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, A.J. Brown, a solid Eagles offensive line as always. This is no longer a Nissan Altima. This is a Ferrari. And you're giving the keys to a kid that can't drive. And, man, it sucks how much we bash on Hurts, but Zach talked about it. He doesn't have the basics, anticipation. He scrambles too early. He can't make wide open throws. Like it's the basic stuff. It's not us like judging him because he's not Tom Brady. He can't do basic stuff that even Minshew could do when he was running that offense.
Yeah, and I know he's been working, speaking of Brady, he is working with Brady, and I know he's putting in the work, but the truth is when you get into a game situation, it's different. I mean, maybe he does make some strides and he's serviceable, but okay, so then Willis keeps developing. Willis isn't going to have to be thrust into starting action this year if you take him. Like, it's just my argument is what could it hurt at this point? Because Willis's upside, if he's Lamar, he's above Hurts. He's above what Hurts will ever be. So I don't know why you don't even, throw a dartboard at it. Who cares? If you take Willis especially, he's not going to be pushing Hurts to start anytime soon. So you can get the best of both worlds. Just like what should have happened was just let Wentz finish out the year while Hurts developed instead of throwing Hurts in there. Even though it was an ugly year, it doesn't matter. They played that whole situation wrong. Anyway, the Saints, we could rant about the Eagles forever. We'll probably have a whole special on, we will be doing team breakdowns after the draft. The Saints took Trevor Penning. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't remember this pick. The position is right. We knew they needed a tackle. Neither one of us are massive fans of Penning. But, the Saints went in. I still think Travis Jones would have been a better pick here as the defensive tackle. But Penning was a need, so it's an okay pick. Let's put it that way. It's not a horrible pick. You're going to deal with, I think, a lot of holding calls from what I've seen. And the only thing I can say is the Saints, if most of the coaching staff is there, seem to be able to produce offensive linemen at a high rate. So
it's right position, wrong person. And I think I would have been more comfortable with someone like Ryman or, well, if you wanted to trade down, or even in the second round, Abraham Lucas, Falele, Solier. I would have been more comfortable with any of those guys. I've said this before. I think Penning's physicality is his cover up for actually not being that good. And I'm not saying that he can't be good down the line, but he needs time to sit. And right now, he does not have that opportunity in New Orleans. And for Daniel Jeremiah and that idiot crew saying that he's going to replace Terran Armstead, what are you talking about? Armstead is one of the best tackles in the league and has been for years. To make that type of statement is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's a commonality with the NFL Network crew. So the Steelers stopped the quarterback slide, and they went with Kenny Pickett. All right, so there's two trains of thought here, and I think they kind of cancel each other out and make this an average pick. One, it's a super safe pick. The positives, it's a super safe pick. You know what you're getting. He's a local kid. I mean, I got to be honest, when they panned to him and he was crying, I know that it wasn't fake. It seemed like it actually meant something that he got picked by his hometown team. And that's great. It's a great story. You can sell it to your fans. And, he can come in and compete right away. He's got decent athleticism for his size. He's got a good, not great arm. He's got good, not great accuracy. However, the negatives, his ceiling is very average and he's got a high floor. He's basically Trubisky in my eyes, maybe a little bit more upside, but I don't know. Trubisky was a third overall pick, even if you think it was a reach at the time. He's playing now in a game or in a team that is going to play a lot of games in the cold, a lot of games in the snow. For a guy with the hand size, again, I can't say over and over again that I am not, and Jack is not as big of a believer in that mattering. However, he would have, I think, the smallest hands in the NFL as a quarterback.
I think it's not even close.
Yeah, so look, it might matter, it might not, but it's certainly something to be thinking about. I think this is an average pick. I would have preferred them shoot upside and allow Trubisky to show if he can be the starter. Because, I mean, in a way, Pickett's going to push him, but Pickett doesn't gain anything by sitting. So it's just like I don't know. It's an average pick to me. And maybe it'll work out really well for them. But, if Trubisky wins the job, then Pickett's a wasted pick.
I think it's a different story if Trubisky's on a 1-year deal, though. The fact that he's on 2 years, and if Trubisky proves that Nagy was the issue and he goes out and starts playing at a Pro Bowl level, then what are you doing? Either you're not re-signing Trubisky, who's going to start looking like a Pro Bowler, or you're going to get rid of Pickett, who you took with the 20th overall pick, and now you look stupid. So
it's to me, it's not a horrible pick, because really, I think Pittsburgh's offense is set up that you don't need an elite quarterback to do well.
and we saw that because they played with Ben the last 3 years.
Yeah, and I obviously Pickett's an upgrade over the Ben that has been there the last few years, but so is Trubisky. So, look, we are not in the front office. We don't know the conversations with Trubisky. We don't know if the demeanor, like maybe he's just not meant for the spotlight, but we don't know. That's the thing. He sat in Buffalo. He learned. I don't know. I think if Trubisky shrinks again, then this looks like a good pick. If Trubisky does well, this is a bad pick because, again, Pickett doesn't gain anything by sitting. I don't know. Maybe Pittsburgh already has an idea on it, and that's why it was Pickett. That's the only thing I can think of is maybe they already know. Although I would have a hard time believing that. We don't know. We're not there. We're going to move on. The Chiefs traded up with the Patriots and took Trent McDuffie. Fine. He was the next corner. Right, Jack? Would you agree?
So for me, the next corner would have been Kyler Gordon. And I think that would have been a little bit better fit for Kansas City because I think Kyler Gordon, I comped him, I believe, to Mike Hilton, or at least in style of play, because I think that he'll kick into the slot in the pros. And they blitzed him like at Washington in the red zone. They would literally line him up as an outside linebacker and blitz, and they would let him set the edge like a linebacker. And I think that's what Mike Hilton does really well for Cincinnati and when he was in Pittsburgh. And he flashed more of the man coverage stuff than McDuffie, and Washington plays about 90% zone. So that's not something to worry about. Kansas City came up, and I mean, they probably saved New England because New England doesn't hit on first round corners. They probably would have taken the wrong guy, but the Chiefs take the upside Washington corner, which completely fine by me. Is he the alpha in the room? Probably not. Does he strengthen up the room? Probably. Again, this is another trade that required peanuts. So to get a player of that caliber at 21 without really having to give much up, it's good. And then I'll send it back to Zach to talk about their second pick, which is also another great pick for them.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, regardless of if you like the player or not, these aren't backbreaking trades. There's just no downside in my eyes if you're giving up so little to go. And then they went and they got, again, one of our top picks of the draft, or one of our best values in George Karlaftis. I really, really believe he was a top 2 edge rusher in this class, or at least if you want to talk about, he was a top 2 end in this class. If you want to break it down and be more specific, he does a lot. He can kick inside if you need him to. He's a very good power and speed combo. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the best pass rusher from this first round. I would not be shocked. A+ grade for me. And Jack's the same. Look, the Chiefs, I don't know why they did what they did with Frank Clark, but he's not a great starter. And they went and they improved the defense. They did it in a different position than we had, with that not being Devin Lloyd. But look, it was a great pick. The Chiefs, again, resisted the urge to take a wide receiver if they didn't think the fit was right, which I said all along, and Jack agreed that they're starting 3. Even their backups are fine. I think they add another body, but there's no need to force this, and they went with the defense. And now, for me at least, they're right back in it with the West. I think these 2 picks really put them in a better situation than they were, whereas I don't think another wide receiver would have.
I agree there.
So then we have
the clowns of the draft,
the Packers. I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing. I can't believe that the mocks where they had them going non-wide receiver were real. I don't understand. what's the point? Why are you signing Rodgers to this mega deal? Why is Jordan Love still on the roster, even if it's for a day 2 pick? Unless you can flip Love for that second round pick that Atlanta has coming up and take a receiver, which even still, Quay Walker, I know he was a riser. I know he's a good linebacker. I know he's got a lot of upside, but even if you didn't want to take receiver, linebacker is not your biggest need. It's not even close. You have Devontae Campbell and Chris Barnes, who is a gem find as an
I
undrafted
was
free
going to say,
agent.
why is everyone forgetting what Chris Barnes has been able to do? Like, I don't know. So for me, Walker, and I told Zach this a couple of times, I believed that Walker could be the first linebacker off the board, and rightfully so, he was. And at Georgia, they mix up the front, so Walker did line up as an outside backer. He did line up as an off the ball linebacker. He just has developing to do, and I get that in this situation you can sit. Are you looking to use him to give different looks in the front, to use him in a way, in a rotational way that Georgia did? I don't understand. I would have rather take this safety here if you're going to take a position where you have established starters, because Savage can't stay healthy.
Yeah, I offensive lineman would have made more sense here. Receiver would have made a lot more sense. I mean, say what you want, Sky Moore would have fit perfectly into what they're missing.
I would have taken Jelani Woods at 22 over Quay Walker.
Yeah, yeah. I just, and then, with their second pick, they went Devonte Wyatt. I'm not a big Devonte Wyatt fan. I understand that the fit makes Devonte Wyatt makes more sense than Quay Walker to me. And if pick 22 had been Devonte Wyatt, I think I would have given it a solid C, maybe a C plus. But you passed on the receivers. And again, if they're able to trade Jordan Love and end up with that Atlanta second round pick right there and take a receiver, okay, that might change the context a little bit on the Devonte Wyatt pick. The Quay Walker just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why you don't just sit back and take a linebacker in the third. I don't know why this I don't know. I don't know. I don't have words for this. I mean, if you're gonna take someone, Jermaine Johnson was there. Like, Jermaine Johnson is the type of value that you couldn't pass up there. Tyler Linderbaum was there. Even like, if you're gonna, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have words for this. The Green Bay Packers continue their string of what the heck are they doing first round picks and just drafting in general. I mean, look, Eric Stokes worked out. Jordan Love didn't. AJ Dillon hasn't done much. Like, at what point is this starting to become highly questionable? Why did you sign Rodgers? I just, what's the point? Like,
I want to know if Rodgers was talked to at all about the draft plan. I'm going to assume that the answer was a hard no. But 50, well, his contract's front loaded. He makes like, I thought I heard the number 70 million or so. But the point is, he's making $50 million a year to throw to gut. Dude, give me a helmet. I'll go beat out some of their receivers. Like,
yeah, I don't. It's just, look, like, I'm just gonna say this over and over. If they can turn Jordan Love into that early second from Atlanta, if they leave this draft with Jordan Love still on their roster, and they didn't get an extra pick for him and get a receiver, even if it's a third round, F. Like, it's just,
Gundakus needs, or however you say his last name, he needs to go. He's been the longest standing person there. That's clearly the only thing that all these coaches and these teams have in common. And Rodgers literally said it in his presser at the end of the year. He refuses to sign guys that are Packers. Clay Matthews, Jordy Nelson. These are all guys that left because Gundakus thinks that he has it under control. And then you watch him do stupid stuff like this in the draft.
Yep. Again, if this was Jermaine Johnson, I could have easily seen the argument that the value is too good to pass up, and a defensive end is a need. A linebacker is not. A third round linebacker that you throw in there to the mix, whatever, that makes sense. Anyway, the Bills trade up with the Ravens and take Kyer Elam. This is not the corner I thought it was going to be. I guess if you're not expecting him to be a number one, it's a decent pick. I didn't scout him too much. I know he was injured a lot, I believe, right? On and off.
That I do not know.
I know he got knocked out of the Alabama game. And
wait, that's right. He did miss a lot. He missed like a whole month this season, I think.
So maybe this could be a high risk, high reward pick. At least, again, right position. At least you're not pulling a Green Bay and picking a high risk, high reward player in the wrong position.
So the only thing I can say about the Buffalo pick is that I don't think you could have chosen wrong. We talked about this from the get-go. I think that this is a very much luxury pick, much like all of their picks. I think that they did the right thing by addressing corner because, again, you didn't lose the Chiefs game because of your offense. You lost it because your defense couldn't cover anybody.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad this wasn't Breece Hall. I know they were saying that when they traded up, and I was like, please.
I just don't know who you're jumping for Breece Hall. That was my whole thought.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for Buffalo, whether it's Trent McDuffie or Kyler Gordon, I mean, McDuffie's off the board, but I thought that the two Washington corners would have been picture perfect fit in Buffalo with Trey White there. Kyer Elam, that's Trey White. Hopefully he stays healthy because if Elam is your one, Bills fans, please start praying because this man gets bullied by receivers. For a guy that's 6'2", man, you'd think he's 5'6". He gets manhandled. I have never seen something so embarrassing in my life.
Like I said, I didn't scout the corners. The only thing I can say is he held, at least from what I saw when I watched John Mechie, he held him in check, and then when he went out, Mechie thrived.
I was going to say, well, his coverage skills aren't the issue. I think he's a top 15 pick based on coverage skills alone.
But he just can't tackle. He's Marcus Peters, but worse.
Yeah, pretty much.
Again, at least it was the right position. And then we get to Dallas. And even in my wildest dreams of who this pick could be, the Dallas is going to pick their guy, I didn't think it was Tyler Smith. Before Jack talks about this, I just want to say that draft room is one of the most depressing things I've ever seen. It was dimly lit. It was like they were in a cave. I don't know if Jerry Jones thinks he's Batman and he's in the Bat Cave, but it was much sadder than that. I mean, the guys in the back were like in the shadows. It was just like, it was like
it looked like Jerry Jones's wake. Like that's what that was my thought.
It was like Jerry Jones's Darth Sidious on the Death Star. That was the kind of the vibe I got, the evil overlord. But look, Dallas did it again. They just went and took Tyler Smith. Jack, you can talk about this one. From what offensive lineman I saw, it was definitely not Tyler Smith. So
I'm gonna quote Zach here. Dallas took their guy from the dark cave that is their war room, and I said what Zach said. I mean, it's literally maybe the whole point of having the dim lit war room was so that they could throw a dart at their board and whatever it landed on, they couldn't argue with it. Tyler Smith. For most people, this isn't a shock. He became he jumped on the hype train and somehow found himself in the first round in mock drafts. And when I watch him, technically he may have been one of the worst tackles I've seen. I think that there's things to work on or to work with Tyler Smith, but man, if they throw him into action right away, especially to try to replace a guy like Connor Williams at guard or Lyle Collins at tackle, Dak Prescott is going to ask for a trade. This man is going to get him killed. He needs at least, I mean, I talked about Penning needing a year. This dude probably needs 2 or 3 years.
So you think this is like an Andre Dillard situation?
Well, Dillard was a first rounder that year, I think.
But that's my point, where he's taken in the first, but he probably doesn't really ever start or work out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Only Dallas could pull a move like this. We talk about Seattle trying to reaching. This is the Seattle move I was waiting for.
Yeah. We're going to skip a couple here because we already talked about the Jets amazing trade up to take Jermaine Johnson, and Baltimore Ravens amazing trade and still
And
taking
Jags to
Tyler.
take Lloyd.
Yeah, again, Devin Lloyd. It's not about my grade is going to be bad, and it's not about Devin Lloyd. It's just not. It's about look. Quartermain is not a starter. I get that, but there's so many linebackers still there. Like there's so many day 2 linebackers.
I scouted linebackers. This is especially for how the board fell. This is such a deep linebacker class, and even guys that were on the hype train, like Troy Anderson, I have later grades on them, but they're going to be steals because they can sit and learn, and they have the physical tools to do so. Guys like Malcolm Rodriguez and Channing Tindall in the third. I just don't understand what Green Bay and Jacksonville are doing. I thought one linebacker would go in the first, and it would probably most likely be Lloyd because I think he has the upside of Parsons. But for two of them to go in the first round with the depth of this class, I just it doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I don't know what Jacksonville. Look, maybe they're thinking about going back to the Saxonville days and just building up the defense, but you're taking two guys that are athletic upside guys that
high risk, high reward.
Yeah, it's a super risk. I mean, they could be both horrible picks. I mean, I know they're high character at the least, so that's great, and you don't have to worry about that part of it, but
so basically what you just said made me think that unless the goal of Doug Peterson is to just try to flip the team from what Urban Meyer did to it in high character guys.
As soon as you started that, I was like, yeah, maybe it is about.
However, that doesn't give you the right to ignore the fact that you have a quarterback compared to Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck who still needs help on the O-line.
My counter to that, to the argument that they're trying to build a culture, is the Raiders, when they drafted Colin Farrell, that was the big supporting argument, is that they wanted a locker room leader.
Yeah.
And it's great if they are locker room leaders, but just I can't get behind these picks for the Jacksonville. Even if you want to take the high risk, high reward guy with Trayvon Walker, okay, that whatever, it's fine. But I don't know. This trade up almost felt like it had to be an offensive lineman, and it wasn't. Like,
I was going to say you jumped, or you traded with Tampa. You traded in front of Green Bay, in front of New England, in front of Cincinnati. That screams lineman.
How are you worried about taking Lloyd there? Like, I don't know.
Green Bay.
Yeah, double dipping at linebacker. Green Bay taking Devonte Wyatt. We already talked about it. Horrible pick because of the receiver. I think Wyatt's fit, as I've said over and over, is better than Quay Walker, but I don't know. Like, Wyatt's best chances is being similar to Kenny Clark unless they're ready to move on from Kenny Clark. Like, I don't think Wyatt's an amazing pass rusher, and he's a decent run defender, and he's a good athlete, but I don't know. Green Bay lost the first round to me. I mean,
I was going to say, I don't know that there's a team that actually did worse. Dallas, the only argument I have for Green Bay being the worst is that they did it twice.
Yeah, and Jacksonville to me is more of probably a loser than a winner, but at least you can see the rationale of just going for it all. I mean,
upside in character. That's
if I almost called him Parsons. If Devin Lloyd works out, he's Micah Parsons, and if Trayvon Walker works out, I don't know who he is. I mean, he's a very athletic.
Garrett. Well, that was the comp, but
that was my comp for him. But I guess if you're saying he works out as the first overall pick, he's better than that. So okay, what is Quay Walker and Devonte Wyatt? Like,
for me, Walker was Tremaine Edmonds.
But like, my argument is Devondre Campbell and Kenny Clark.
Yeah,
you have that. Like, your defense wasn't even the problem. I just you lost to Darius Smith. It doesn't replacing it with Devonte Wyatt and Quay
Quay
Walker just no. Then why did you pay Devonte Campbell? That just doesn't make sense. Anyway, the Patriots and their signature trade down. We're back to the normal Patriots. No spending in free agency, draft day trades and all. Took Cole Strange, who I know Jack was high on, and he has this as an A. They traded Shaq Mason in a horrible trade, in my opinion, for a 6th rounder. But from what little I know, Strange is very coachable. Sounds like a Belichick player. I mean, the one thing I trust in the Patriots to do is to draft good offensive linemen. They may whiff on other first rounders, but every time they drafted an offensive lineman, it's worked out, it seems.
To start, Cole Strange, I did have a day one grade on, which was funny because he wasn't one of my initial scouts. He was one of the guys that I was like, let me take a quick look at. And, if I like him, I'll go in further. And right from like the first snap, I was like, yep, this is a guy I'm going to have to watch a couple of games of. And I mean, they were talking about him as a day 2 steal, and it's absolutely true. If you got him on day 2, it's a steal. But this is right around where I thought he could go. And one of our friends texted me a tweet from JPA Football that said in an interview with Sean McVay that he said he wasted their time watching Cole Strange thinking that he would be there at 104. So there's clearly a mix of opinions on him. I think it has to do with the fact of, 2 reasons. One, he played at Chattanooga. 2, he's not built like your stereotypical guard. But to me, just like for a lineman, like it's just weird because Linderbaum, undersized, but plays like a maniac. Cole Strange doesn't look like a stereotypical guard, but he's probably going to be good, especially in New England. Salier and Falele, not athletic. Like their upside is not there, but they can play now. It's just a matter of what you're looking for. And like Zach said, if Belichick says this is the guy on the O line, it's most likely the guy.
And he likes most of his linemen to be super athletic. So, an undersized guard makes sense. A guy that can move, a guy that can, do whatever the weird rushing concepts they've got going on. So then we're going to go to, we already covered the Chiefs with Karlaftis, great pick. The Bengals taking Daxton Hill. I don't know what to think about this. It's a great player, but they have both roles he could play. And they have elite options. Their slot corner is it Mike Hilton, right?
Yeah.
I was going to confuse him with Holton Hill or something. Mike Hilton, one of the best slot corners, if not the best slot corner. And then they're both safeties are Pro Bowlers. It's just, I don't know. I unless they've got some grand vision of converting him to a full-time corner, or they're looking to trade one of the safeties, but you think that would have been part of a first-round trade, considering the level that they play at. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is here. This is another one of those just take the pick and figure it out, but you think one of the other corners that are straight corners would have been a better pick here. Kyler Gordon, Andrew Booth even. I guess this is one of those you got to wait and see what happens. If they go and trade one of the safeties tomorrow, all right, well then that's clear that they had the plan, but I don't know. I don't know. This was just a weird one to me.
This pick hurt me. It really hurt me on the inside because Daxton Hill is one of my favorite prospects this year. He is a playmaker. When you say the word playmaker of this class, Hill is the first name that comes to mind. And Hill did play corner at Michigan. Like he on their goal line and short yardage stuff, he was the only corner on the field. So if they want to convert him to an outside corner, that I'm sure he'll be fine. The problem is that he's not going to be the playmaker that you watch on film from the outside. And I mean, you just signed Hilton like 2 years ago to a 4-year deal. So Hill's not playing anytime soon. As a safety, unless the contract negotiations are, I mean, unless the intentions were tag and trade or the extension talks are just going really bad, I don't understand. This is almost like the Hamilton thing where like maybe you run 3 safeties, but like if you get rid of Bates, Bell is more of a box safety too. And I mean, I'm sure Hill's got versatile as hell. So uh, if you ask him to play safety, he'll play safety. If you want him to play corner, he'll play corner. But I just don't think you're going to get the most out of him doing something where he isn't just like free range like Hilton is. It just seems like you're. If Hilton was on his last year, I think this is a different story. But you still have him for 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, you literally just drafted a clone of your nickelback. I don't know what the thought is here.
That one might have to shake itself out, just like Kyle Hamilton. But we're going to finish this with the last pick. The Vikings, I thought for sure we're going to trade out of this. I was very surprised at how quickly they got the pick in. I thought somebody was going to trade up for this quarterback, whoever it was, but they stayed and they took Lewis Racine, and Rich Eisen had a great closing remark. He was like, "And scene." I thought it was funny.
I missed that.
I thought it was a little funny. I wonder how much he had that geared up and hoping that he was going to be the final player in the first. Jack scouted him. I know that safety is a huge need for them. I don't know if he fits well with Harrison Smith in your opinion, but at least, again, this is another one where the position was right. I still think it could have been one of the corners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's where I was going to go with this. Is Cincinnati passed on both corners that are left. Even if I'm not high on Booth at this point, like verge round 2, I think the value would be okay there. I get you lost Xavier Woods, and like, but you were in a position to get Kyle Hamilton. If Detroit gave you 2 first-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, and something else, I think this is a different story.
Even if they just gave you a second outright, but they didn't.
Yeah. The fact that all you got was a pick flop in the 1st and 2nd and a 3rd rounder, and you walked away. Now, don't get me wrong. Lewis Cine is a good prospect. For a guy who's considered a hard hitter, I think that he played the deep zones a lot. I think that overall he's a good prospect. Probably goes in, well, for Minnesota, he steps in day 1 and plays next to Harrison Smith. And I think that's a great guy for him to learn from a leadership aspect and a play aspect. But why trade out at 12 when you could have Kyle Hamilton? Because Cine isn't Kyle Hamilton. I mean, I get that you want one of the corners like Stingley, but the best prospect in this class fell to your lap. And you're like, nope, gonna trade it to peanuts to my division rival. You are gonna good luck with if Jameson Williams burns y'all, you're gonna look so dumb.
Yeah, like I said, the position was right, but was Kyle Hamilton passing on him really worth just an extra 3rd and some pick swaps? I don't think so.
I mean, I guess it depends on what they do with that 2nd and like.
Yeah, but okay. So if they end up with one of the corners, I guess that makes it a little bit better. If they end up with Kyle Hamilton and Kyler Gordon.
Okay, so just a little foreshadowing here. The order tomorrow is Tampa Bay from Jacksonville, Minnesota from Detroit, Tennessee from the Jets, I believe. So Minnesota is going to basically have their choice of defenders because I can't imagine Tampa goes defense. It's probably O-line or receiver.
Or tight end, I think. Well, guess that's what that's probably what you meant. But, or, I mean, they could take – it could be a defensive lineman. It's definitely not secondary. Let's put it that way.
So, for me, I get that the Vikings bring in O'Connell, and so now it's fresh slate. This isn't stupid Mike Zimmer saying I don't want to see Kellen Mond. However, you have four of the top five quarterbacks sitting there. Tampa needs. I get they have Trask, but you're telling me that they wouldn't take a shot in the second round on Howell or Ritter or Corral or
So
Willis.
I'm a Mon fan, and like I think Mon had all the tools to be one of these guys that you're now looking at. A Ritter like player with a little bit more athleticism, and I probably wouldn't, but it all depends on the new coaching staff. I mean, just because Zimmer's an idiot and I have to cut out, make sure I watch what I say. But when you say you don't want to see him in a lost season in the last week, that's just him being bitter. He's a bitter old man. Yeah. So it's up to the new coaching staff. I mean, O'Connell probably scouted him in LA. So really, we don't know.
Well, so, I mean, where I was going with that was we talk about the receiver runs that could happen in the second, but there's no saying that this couldn't be a bunch of trade ups or quarterback runs to start the second.
I think the top 15 picks are going to be
receiver and quarterback.
Yeah, I think it'll be 3 out of the 4, or even 4 out of the 4 of the remaining quarterbacks because of trade ups and or teams like Tennessee, teams like the Seahawks, the Colts.
Well, so
the Colts are right there. I don't know what to do about that.
So, I mean, as it sits, they're not the most likely, but Tampa, Minnesota, and Tennessee are all technically in the mix for a quarterback. New York Giants are right there.
Yeah,
Seattle is right there. See, if Malik Willis and even Howell goes in the first, I think we could see like where we in our mock Ritter and Corral slide a little bit. But now you're talking about first round upside guys of Howell and Willis in the second round. This could be like Tampa could be on the phone with all the teams right now begging. Like this could be a bidding war for pick 33 right now.
Yeah, and then so the receiver point, the teams that don't need quarterbacks or are borderline: Vikings, Titans, Giants, Texans, Bears, Colts,
Falcons,
Packers all need receivers. So this is real quick, I just want to run through a few guys: Christian Watson, George Pickens, Sky Moore, Hal,
Bell,
Willis. Bell was a little bit later for me. My two top tight ends, I didn't think were going to be first rounders. I thought there was a chance on Jelani Woods, but they're all there. And there's more than that. Ojabo's still there. Although I really don't know what to think about where his injury is going to place him, but I assume he goes in the top half of the second. Nick Bonito. Mafe. Yeah, all those guys are all there. These are still – there's a lot of good prospects. I know they say that every year, but the receivers and the quarterbacks are staring. They're going to go. I can't imagine the quarterbacks continuing to fall because now if that all it took was to trade up what it did in the first, it's going to take even less to trade up in the second.
Well, unless it becomes a bidding war.
Yeah, but even if it is, I think you want to be the first team to get that out of the way so you're not overpaying to move up. Tampa Bay for sure could be looking to move. I think the Vikings stay put and take the corner. If they pass on that again, that's a problem. Tennessee, I don't know.
Well, so for me, this is like a situation where I look at Green Bay and people are calling for their heads right now. And I think that you could see a situation where Love gets moved to a team like Indy, who had rumors around him already, New York, the Giants, who we had mock trade, and the Giants move down. They pick up a couple picks. They pick up Love. The Packers stop the burn down of Green Bay. I think that this is going to go. I think it's weird to see Willis in particular in the second round.
I can't believe no one traded up to 32 to take him. Even if you think he's got a 2-year development window, he's a super, super high character guy. And he's a leader. Even if you have 2 years planned development, okay, you get the 5th-year option by taking him in the first. Now you don't have that. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I didn't think he was that raw. Like, I think he needed a year at least.
Well, I mean, but where I was going with that was this could become more than just the 4 guys this year. I think this is where we could start seeing Baker moved, Jimmy G moved, Love moved. This goes beyond the quarterback prospect. So where we're talking about maybe 4 guys who could get drafted, you're probably talking almost 8 or 9 guys quarterbacks that could be on the move to a new team.
Yep, I agree. Although I think, again, the Packers shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over because now I think Jordan Love's value took a little bit of a hit.
Yeah.
I think now that there's only 1 quarterback taken in the first, it's not like it's a desperation play now.
Yeah.
I do think the Giants make sense, but you're not going to get that pick 36 straight up for him. I wouldn't think. Atlanta at 43, I wouldn't think you'd get that pick straight up. I mean, I think he's worth it, but if you're talking to the Packers and be like, okay, I can have Malik Willis. I like Jordan Love more, but not by that much. Like an extra year of controllability. I don't know. Packers.
Big L.
The problem that they have themselves in now is first of all, they need to move Jordan Love. You cannot keep him. And B, you don't have an early second. So you are in great danger of missing out on this run that's probably about to happen when teams like the Bears and the Colts are picking for the first time and need receiver. The Falcons need another receiver still. Drake London is a good pick. They still don't have anyone beyond him. You could argue Cleveland could take a receiver. I think we had it projected as a defensive lineman, but nobody would fault them if Christian Watson was there or if Sky Moore was there. Like, Packers playing an awfully dangerous game and stupid. I don't have another word for it. Like, big losers of the day in my book.